welcome to Two Words Wolves Pod. I am Ryan Eichten. With me as always is Leo Sun. Leo, how you doing?
Dude, feeling good, feeling great. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, this week we got a press conference to talk about. All the new guys were introduced to the team, as well as an actual basketball game to talk about. Feels weird to watch basketball in early October, but here we are. So we'll just hop right into it. First segment, Howl or Foul. We'll discuss the hot topics of the week and see what we agree or disagree on. So topic one, Donte DiVincenzo started a game for the Wolves. Anthony Edwards did not play in the preseason game out in Palm Springs. So Leo, howl or foul on Donte being a starter?
That's a 100% howl for me. I think this was a perfect opportunity to see Donte DiVincenzo in a starting role. Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle didn't play today, and so he naturally just fell right into place right there. And I do see that this is an opportunity for him to start, would be in a time where someone is coming out, because we know what the starting five will and most likely be. We have Mike Connelly, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert. That's a lock. Now, Finch has already talked about, hopefully letting Mike rest a little bit more. Who knows, maybe Rudy, he's not getting any younger. He may need a rest, so everyone kind of bumps down a little bit. And so I think with that, the first person that should be starting, no matter what, if it's a big that's resting, if it's a guard that's resting, Donte should come in as a starter. And I think that would be great because he really showed what he could do out there, running around, doing the dirty work, diving for some balls, some deflections, beautiful off-ball movement, and a trigger that, quite frankly, we haven't seen since Malik Beasley's been on the team. That movement shooter, in theory, we're like, that's what we're going to get with him. And what we really got to see on that game on Friday was him actually going through and doing exactly what we thought, but even better. He was perfect 4 for 4 from the floor. He took a wild three, just pull up, transition. It was almost like a LeBron-esque where he looks down the 3-point line for 1 second and he just pulls up and he splashes it. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was an impressive showing, impressive introduction to Wolves fans. Obviously, we don't much care if the shot in preseason, if the shots go in or not. It's not really all that indicative of much, but to see him just fearlessly go out there and just start chucking threes from anywhere on the court, not something the Wolves have had recently. You mentioned Malik Beasley, but is also something that they're going to need to replace with Karl-Anthony Towns out the door. Just in general, they need more three-point shooting. Yeah, but I'll say howl on this one, just in the sense of if anyone's out. Obviously, there's not going to be room in the starting rotation for him if everyone is healthy, but when people are out, I think it'll make sense to start him. And, I mean, looking at the Knicks playoff stretch from last year, he started every single game for them on over close to 13 or 14 games. So he has experience playing the starting role and also a backup role with his time for the Knicks. So I don't really fear him stepping into the starting rotation when need be. And I think it'll be important for him to do that as they try to get rest for Mike Conley or Rudy Gobert is near his position. But just rest for really anyone as last year it seemed like they were chasing every regular season win, but I think this year they'll still be trying to get the best seed possible. But there will be a little bit of, I think, just, hey, we don't need to chase every single win here on every single night.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know about you, but I might be disappointed in him the first time he misses a three-pointer because the way he was shooting and the way the ball was going through the net, he was just cashing them. And so the way he shoots just gives you confidence that every time he pulls up, I have faith it's going to go in. Now, how long can he keep this 100% streak going? He might be the first player in NBA history to never miss a three all season. That'd be pretty sick.
Yeah, I don't know about that. He'll probably go and brick a few in the next game, and that's kind of how it goes. It's a high volatility task, the three-point shooters. But yeah, I think people that were kind of down on the trade originally, I think hopefully Donte has helped some of that a little bit here to start out. Yeah, I just think he's going to fit right in with this team. It really fits what Finch is trying to do really well, kind of the flowing style, not necessarily running a whole bunch of pick and rolls or dedicated actions, at least not as much as other teams. But yeah, really, really impressive start for Donte in his first game. We'll move on to topic 2. Rob Dillingham led the team in field goals attempts. Part of that was him playing as much as anyone else because the starters got most of the run. So Leo, howl or foul, Rob leading the team in shots?
As far as him leading in field goal attempts, it's a foul for me. And hear me out. The reason I say foul is because scoring first isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I would definitely like to see him share a little bit more of that playmaking ability that we saw during summer league. He can run hot, he can run cold. When he was hot, obviously, like he was today, that's great. I mean, 9 out of 20 is not necessarily a bad percentage. I mean, that would be a great percentage if he shoots out all year. 45% is great the way that he plays. And I love to see those floaters. He was tossing up some really skyscraping floaters over some of the bigs out there, over Jackson Hayes. He hit open 3-pointers. It's all the stuff we like to see. But the reason I say foul is because, again, that playmaking, he's got to show that balance. Now we know, great, you can score against a preseason tier 2, tier 3 level players in the NBA. But, let's see him do a little bit more as a playmaker. Ant said after the next day during practice, he had a quote where he said, he was asked about Rob Dillingham. He's like, oh, I love Rob. He's like a little brother to me. He says that, last year the Wolves really could have used some more. They could have used his scoring last year. And the direct quote that he said kind of popped out to me is he said he only knows one thing, and that's to shoot, because he's so efficient, we can't say much to him. And to me, I know Ant's never going to throw his teammate under the bus or anything like that. And I don't think he necessarily meant it in a bad way, but I do kind of get that sense like, all right, so Ant knows that this guy wants to score. He can get out there and score. But when he said that last line about he was so efficient, we can't say much to him, that kind of stuck out to me. It's like, all right, well, if he's going to shoot 45%, then that's great. But if he's not, then Ant might tell him like, hey, young man, you got to reel it in a little bit. You got to watch that shot selection. So it's a foul as far as 20 field goal attempts. He most likely won't be getting that much up in a game. I would like to see that balance a little bit.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I'm gonna go Howell only because it's a preseason game. The young guys played most of the minutes. The starters only played the first 8 or 10 minutes. Nikhil stuck around with the second unit a little bit longer, and then the young guys pretty much played the entire second half. And so this is really a spot for the young guys to play. I'm assuming that's going to be the case most of the preseason. Obviously, Anthony Edwards will play in a few games here. But I think it's good for Dillingham to really lock in the thing he's good at here in the preseason, which will be scoring. To start out Summer League, they kind of tried to have him dish around and play facilitator role, and he didn't do the greatest at that. And he'll have to continue to get better at that. But for the preseason here, I think it's good for him to just try to be a 3-level scorer. You saw him get blocked at the rim a little bit by some of the Laker longer players, and I think Bronny James got him once. In the preseason, I think that's completely fine. Like, figure out what you can do, figure out at this next level which type of shots you can get to. He hit a pull-up mid-range, he hit a 3, he hit, like you said, a bunch of floaters. I think it's good to get him some experience with what they'll need him or want him to do this year, and eventually he'll kind of get more comfortable with the dishing it around as they think about him being the successor to Mike Conley in a year or two.
I think another thing I noticed as well to continue off that is that there was some murmuring of his ankle was coming off an ankle injury during the summer league, and he maybe wasn't quite himself physically, but that explosion, that first step that he has, it looked quite different than what we saw a couple months ago. And that's really exciting to me, is to see, all right, so yes, he's small. And during the summer league, there's a little bit of concern, like, can he actually get to the rim? Can he use his size and speed to finagle his way into the paint? And we saw that a lot more earlier this week. So I love seeing that.
Yeah, the main difficulty for him with getting on the court this season will be on the defensive end. The Wolves' perimeter defense is probably as well equipped to deal with having a smaller defender on the court, but ultimately, if opposing offenses are just attacking him over and over, they're going to find it hard to keep him on the court, especially a coach like Finch, who doesn't necessarily like having a poor defender out there. You see him last season play Kyle Anderson, a fantastic defender, over better offensive options, just because he trusted Kyle, who also was a very good playmaker, which is something that Dillingham, like we said, will have to get better at. But I think it was a great preseason debut, just in the sense of we got to see him do something well, which was score. And we'll see if that playmaking and defense can come along as we go through the preseason, and if he sticks in the rotation to start the year. Finch has talked about just like Dillingham having one great game, one mediocre game, and probably one poor game, and that's kind of the expectations for him. So I think this would fall closer to the great category, and we'll see if he struggles in a game or two, I would probably expect that. And I think that'll be fine. It'll be good to have him get the full range of outcomes. But we can move on to our third topic here. Howell or foul, Minot leads the team in minutes played. He looked a lot better than he did in preseason. So Howell or foul on that, Leo?
If you squint your eyes and you look at the box score, you could have convinced me that that was Karl-Anthony Minot out there. Let me read you his stat line. He went 22 points on 9 of 11 shooting, 4 of 6 from 3, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 blocks, team high. 3 steals, team high, 2 blocks, team high. Let's just ignore the 0 for 2 from the free throw line. I mean, there's not much more you could have asked from a preseason debut for Josh Minot this season. He was great out there. He was running around. He threw down some highlight reverse dunks. At one point, I know there's that clip floating around where Josh Minot steals the ball. He takes one, I think maybe 2 dribbles past the half court line. He takes off from just inside the free throw line. He slams it down. This is a different Josh Minot we're seeing out there. He talks about it during the media day presser where he talks about he's trusting himself. He's learning to let go and not care so much. And he's really felt like he's found a new version of himself. And this is a Josh Minot we're getting. Playing him 29 minutes. Shoot, play him 48 minutes if he's going to play this great out there. He's a young guy. He has plenty of energy out there. He should have that. He's been chomping at the bit to get out there. And so if his shot is falling, why shouldn't he be the 8th man right in there? You know, we have the starting 5. You have Nas off the bench. You have Nall off the bench. Rob Dillingham obviously is going to come off the bench too. But I mean, there's no reason that Josh Minot shouldn't be in there as well too. I love seeing it. It was so exciting. What about you?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go foul. Not because he didn't play well. He played extremely well, and it's really good to see him have quality minutes where he didn't necessarily have that in his summer leagues or former NBA minutes. But I just don't know where they're going to find rotation minutes for him. You talked about, so they already have the starting 5. 6 through 8 is DiVincenzo, Na, and Naz Reid. And I think Rob, based on where he was drafted, probably should be ahead of him in the pecking order, and just he plays a different position than Minot. And so if Minot plays, that's 10. And it is hard for a team really trying to win to play 10 guys, especially if you want to load up on your top 7, which I think they're going to want to do. Their top 8 probably not included. They're going to want to play those guys heavy minutes. So I don't know where he's going to play every single night. Now, they're not going to be healthy every night. They're probably going to have nights where there's 1 or 2 guys out, and he'll find an easy 15 minutes, and we'll see what he can do. But I'm just a little dubious on where they're going to find these minutes, which is a good problem to have. A lot of other championship contenders don't have this. I think if Minot was on, say, the Denver Nuggets, he would slide right in like their 8th man or something. I'm not totally familiar with the bench of their team, but I think in a shallower team, he would be able to slide in. But I don't think he's going to get consistent minutes. Now, with that said, he played fantastic. He showed he's always had the lawnmower. He's always been kind of up and running and going, but it felt more controlled. The offensive game felt better. His shot looked a lot better. So I'm excited to see what he can do when he's given minutes. But like I said, I'm just not exactly sure where the minutes are coming from.
Yeah, we're talking about a guy that was the 45th pick of the NBA draft, has spent the majority of his career playing the G League, and at times failing to stand out as someone that's better than the G League that belongs to play on real NBA minutes. And like you said, based on how he played today, it's a good problem to have, to be, okay, well, how are we going to get this guy minutes? So I additionally think that preseason is the time for hot takes and overreactions. And so is it too early to say Josh Minot should win Most Improved Player of the Year? Who's to say? But based on that, that's most improved in my eyes. So I love it. I love Josh Minot. He is of that Corey Brewer, that Josh Okogie, the wild type, running around, crazy athletic. You might have a game where he pops off for 51 points. Who knows? I would love to see a Josh Minot 51-point game this season. That would be great.
It's good to have that depth. I think about a lot of teams where if they're missing they're missing a starter or 2 or 2 of their 8 rotation guys, that the guys that they have to bring in there and play are going to be like, ooh, these minutes are going to be tough. And the Wolves, Minot is a good example of, like, if Minot has to play 12 minutes, it's not going to be a huge issue. Maybe there's obviously better players, but it's not like, ooh, how are we going to get through these minutes without hemorrhaging points? So yeah, an encouraging sign for him to play well. Probably real first extended stretch where he's played well in a professional game. On to topic 4, Howl or Foul, with Nickeil Alexander-Walker stepping in to the kind of the point guard role. Mike Conley was the first player onto the bench in this one, and Nickeil played most of the point guard minutes, which in and of itself wouldn't mean much, but he was clearly the facilitator out there. He played with the starting unit that night, so Donte was on the court, and clearly Nickeil was kind of more of the point guard. Howl or Foul on Knob playing more point guard, whether Mike is out or just from the bench unit?
Oh, that's a big howl from me. I would howl right now, but I'm not going to send my dog into a barking frenzy right now. But Naw out there playing point guard. There was one play that he had where, if I recall correctly, during the first half, he was driving left baseline. He might have bobbled the ball, his dribble a little bit. He recovers and he goes left baseline. I believe Josh Minot is sitting in the left corner. And as Nickeil Alexander is driving to the hoop, he does like a no-look drop-off behind the back pass to the corner to Minot, who cashes in a 3. And I don't know if you believe in prayers, but that'd be looking a little bit like Ricky Rubio out there. And I was like, whoa. If Nickeil Alexander-Walker can pass the rock like that, I am 100% in. He was one of my favorite players. I would say he was my favorite hipster player on the Wolves these last couple seasons. And I was really sad in a sense that when Cat was gone, we were getting back Donte, who's obviously was great, but I think some of the murmuring was what's going to happen with Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He plays a similar type role, 3-and-D, can kind of bring the ball up. It's like, all right, is he going to get squeezed out? But if he's playing like this, he had a couple beautiful dimes that he had. He had a beautiful and one drive that he had. He looked really controlled out there. And so he's still young. He still has plenty of time to grow. And I do see the vision of Tim Connelly. I see the vision that Chris Finch has is to have multiple creators, have multiple guys that could dribble, that could handle, that could pass. It shouldn't just be the days of old where it's, all right, you have one Mike Conley and then one backup point guard and Monte Morris, and that's it. No, he wants people who can attack and make decisions, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker's decision-making is as it showed in that one preseason game against the South Bay Lakers out there. I would love it. So big howl for me.
Yeah, I agree. Howl for me. We talked about kind of the starting unit and DiVincenzo hopping in there potentially. I think, honestly, if Mike Conley is to miss a single game, which he likely will at some point, I think Nickeil will be the person that I would slide into that starting unit at point guard. Obviously, Dillingham will play a lot of minutes if Mike is out, but I think Nickeil would be the first person I'd look to for point guard. Just in this game, he showed he had a pick and roll ball handler. He was awesome, whether it was playing with Rudy as the screener or I think Garza. He had a few plays there. Just finding people, keeping the ball moving, and like a junior Mike kind of was the facilitator really well. So what do you think? If Mike is out and everyone else is playing, is Nickeil the option at point guard? Do they go to Dillingham early? What do you think?
I think the trust that Finch has in Nickeil will grant him that opportunity. I don't mean that in a way that he'll be starting as a point guard and he'll be bringing the ball up every single time. I think Ant will share a heavy load of that. But I do think that it is possible for him to start. I know that Donte starting, I mentioned that earlier, it could be a possibility as well. He played a little bit of that lead guard as well, too, for the Knicks when they're severely undermanned. So I could see either one of Donte or Nickeil coming in. But to be honest, as you mentioned earlier, same theme, it's a bit of embarrassment of riches. We have two playmakers that could shoot the ball, that could be secondary ball handler, like a jack of all trades type. And those are the types that you see when you see the Boston Celtics who won the championship last year. That's what they had. You had Derek White, you had Drew Holiday, you had Jaylen Brown, even Jason Tatum. These are guys that could bring the ball up. They could pass the ball. They could do a little bit of everything. And so I think that's what 2024 basketball moving forward is looking like. Multiple creators, long, defensive-minded guys that could shoot. So I could see it.
Yeah, they played a lot of minutes with Derek White and Drew Holiday on the court together, and I think maybe something Na and Ant on the court together could look similar. So I like that comparison there. But yeah, I think Na, just because he's been with the team, familiarity would be the one to hop in the point guard role. And as like the rotation shake out, you might see you'd see DiVincenzo and other guards and wings kind of step into more minutes there as well. All right, we move on to our next segment here, Apex Alpha, where we share who we think was the leader of the pack this week. Leo, who is your Apex Alpha of the week?
My Apex Alpha. We all knew he was going to come up. Everyone's been chanting for him. It's Luka Garza, baby. Luka Garza is my Apex Alpha. He treated the Lakers, like I mentioned earlier, like the South Bay Lakers. In just 22 minutes, he nearly put up a 20 and 10 double-double. He did what he has always done to the Lakers in the preseason. I remember I was at a game, I believe it was last season, where they were playing in Southern California against the Lakers. Luka Garza took over at the end of the game. He was talking trash to Floyd Mayweather. We saw a little bit of that today as well, too. He was just dumping on him. So Luka Garza is also in that Josh Minot range of, okay, well, where are the minutes going to come from him? He's forcing Chris Finch to give him an opportunity. Luka Garza has stuck around for now 2-3 years now. He's graduated from the G League. He hardly played in the G League. I think he only played maybe 2, if not maybe 3 games for the Iowa Wolves last year. And he's been sitting on the bench with the big leaguers. Same with Josh Minot. He played less and less games. And so I don't know if both of them will get minutes. It may come down to one of them becoming the 9th man, on the rotation. So I'm a little bit worried about that, but I love seeing Luka Garza dominate out there. It's so funny. You have this giant Ernie looking fella out there that's just dominating guys. He's got that paint lockdown Al Jefferson move on the outside. He, again, low-key looking a little bit like Karl-Anthony Towns. He's got a sweet stroke from 3. So I love to see it. He's my Apex Alpha.
Yeah, I really like that pick. They did sign Luka at the end of last season to a full-time deal, so he was available on their playoff roster. And then they obviously re-signed him this offseason. And the two things that they kind of talked about, other than just his on the court play for the reason they brought him back, was he's a great locker room guy. All the teammates love him, all that great stuff. And then also he's used to not playing at all one night and then being needed in some role the next night and being able to, not every player is good with that. A lot of players need consistent minutes or at least a consistent role. And Luka Garza has shown that he'll, at a moment's notice, if one of the bigs gets hurt and they need 5 minutes, 10 minutes, he's able to come in there and play. And the one thing I think about, in baseball, there's this term of quadruple A player. So the top level of the minors is triple A. And these players that are not quite good enough for the majors, they can play, but you're not going to love playing them. And if you send it back down to the minors, they're gonna put up huge numbers. Well, that's Luka Garza to a T, where he struggled. I wouldn't say he struggled defensively. He finds a hard spot to find in the NBA. But what I wonder is if when everyone's healthy, when the 3 bigs really are healthy, Randle, Nas, and Rudy, when those guys are healthy, there's not going to be minutes for him. But when one of those guys are out, and there's probably going to be a game or two where 2 of those guys are out, he's going to play, it seems. And I just think about a lot of these teams don't play a backup center. They kind of play smaller with their second unit. And that just seems to be a perfect spot for Luka to come in and just start dominating, especially against teams that don't have the greatest starting unit. And so their backup unit is G League guys, maybe. And that's, you talk about eating innings or eating minutes. I think against lesser teams, Luka could be relied on to just get some buckets.
He's done everything that Chris Finch and the Timberwolves have asked from him.
Yeah.
He's increased his range from perimeter. He's taken more volume of threes. He's transformed his body. He's looked slimmer than ever. And he looks faster out there. He looks more mobile. He's doing his best at defending. We know that's not his strong suit, but he's doing whatever they're asking him to. So he talked about it in media day as well, too, is that he's been told by the coaching staff that his time will come. His time will come, and to be ready. And he absolutely is showing that he's been ready every time, like you mentioned, off the bench, cold, come in and just dominate. So yeah, I would definitely love to see him get some minutes this year. I know he's the people's champ, so it's fair to give that to the Timberwolves fans out there, the faithful that love hearing Luka Garza's name being called up by the media guy.
Yeah, and a fun stat with Luka is last year he was one of the top 5 in points per minute played, which obviously is part of that. He hasn't played a lot of minutes, but what's funny is the other people in the top 5 are who you'd expect. It's like Luka and Giannis and the best scorers in the league. So obviously if you increase his minutes, he's not going to score 30 points a night. But it's funny to think about kind of the outlier player he is, where when he gets brought in, he plays minutes, or he gets buckets in the minutes he does play.
Shout out Jake Layman. Points per minute, baby.
There we go. All right, my Apex Alpha of the week is Tim Connelly. Like I said, they introduced the 3 new players they got in the Karl-Anthony Towns trade: Julius Randle, Donte DiVincenzo, and former Wolf, now Wolf again, Keita Bates-Diop. I just want to play a quick clip Connelly breaking down the trade and kind of why they decided to make the move that they did.
Tim, coming off of a Western Conference Finals appearance, why did you think this was the right move to make, not just in the long term, but in the short term for this coming season?
Yeah, these guys, I think, bring special, certainly on court skills. Excuse me, they bring toughness. I think depth's increasingly important as the CBA's kind of evolved the last couple of years. We don't trade a person like Cat lightly. We were very specific with what it would take. And quite frankly, the asking price was very high when you see what these guys accomplished last year. They come from a winning environment. Donte's was the only guy in building now that's won an NBA championship. We talked about winning an NBA championship. He actually knows what it looks like, knows what it feels like. So the combination of people and player made it pretty hard to pass up. And we're super excited to bring all three guys to the team, and our guys are chomping at the bit to try to win the ring this year.
Yeah, so you hear Tim Connelly talk about a few things there. First, the CBA playing a big role, as we talked about last week. Karl-Anthony Towns' contract played a huge role in them deciding to trade him. They have a lot more flexibility, not just avoiding large luxury tax bills, but also with the financial flexibility, just with the second apron rules. The second apron prohibits you from trading multiple different people at once. So the people talked about maybe moving on from Julius Randle if things don't fit. The problem there is they can only trade one for one, or they can't trade Julius Randle and then another person on top of that. Because of the second apron, they can only trade one person. So they'll be under the second apron in the offseason, and that'll open up trade possibilities. And then he also talked about them wanting to get these specific players. So Julius Randle, as we'll talk about later, big Finch guy. Donte DiVincenzo, we've already seen what he can do, lighten up the three-point line. And they talked about his championship pedigree. He's the only player that has that right now. So I don't think this was a fully money-driven decision. I think a lot of factors went into it, as Tim Connelly said there.
Yeah, I think that's a great Apex Alpha candidate. I love that. And now that we've been almost a week removed from this trade and had time to really settle down, this may be a little bit out of place, but sports has this tendency to bring us a feeling of childish whimsy and to bring us really back to those good old times. And as fans, sometimes we can feel a little juvenile emotional about things. I know I still feel a certain way about trading away Cat, but sometimes our parents or our guardians know best. And Tim Connelly is, for all intents and purposes, for this, the guardian and the parent of the Timberwolves organization as far as what's on the basketball court, the product. And so we have to trust that he knows what he's doing. We talked about this in our last episode already about how, this does a multitude of things, that this is addressing multiple needs and blah, blah, blah. Those are all true. But it's one thing to hear it. It's another thing to believe it. I think at this point, he's earned our trust, and I've learned to want to believe it. And he is that apex that is at the controls, and we have to trust him. And it does make sense rationally. It should make sense emotionally as well.
Yeah, I think the more we've sat with it, the more has come out, whether it's been them speaking about the trade or reporting on it. I was worried that this was either like a Glenn Taylor decision, that he didn't want to pay a certain luxury tax bill, or the new potential owners, depending on how the case goes. But them kind of coming in and say, we're worried about this huge luxury tax bill because they seemingly have cash flow problems, or maybe not, who knows. But the more that it's being reported, it really seems like this was a Tim Connelly decision, and obviously ownership had to in some way sign off on it, but that this was not just them being cheap. Maybe that is just posturing by them, but it really seems like this was a deal that was more focused on making this team good, making the next iterations of the team good, and being able to have the financial flexibility and all that, and not worried about the subsequent luxury tax penalties.
Yeah, there's a certain aspect of this where I feel as though Tim Connelly, there's no rational person out there that's not a troll that would think that Tim Connelly is in a poor job with the Nuggets or in a poor job with the Timberwolves. And when you consider that, you think about there is that opportunity for him to leave next summer, I believe. And so if you don't want him to leave, you have to allow Tim Connelly to cook. You have to allow him to lead the team. And that's exactly what he's doing, is that he made this trade because he thought that's what's best for the team. And so if we're out here trying to stifle him because us as fans, not that matters, or ownership's telling him to do something, that's only going to piss him off and make him want to leave. And we got to start the search all over. And we're going to end up getting, Rob Babcock or any old retread back from the country club and power. So again, we really have to let him do his thing and, prove that this is his ship, and we're going to allow him to do the job, steer it in the way that he wants and do his job.
Yep, absolutely. And I think it'll be important for us Wolves fans to kind of put the trade behind us a little bit. Obviously, it'll be a monumental decision for the Wolves for a long time. But ultimately, when we learn of whether it was a good, bad, or other move, it'll be years down the road. So it's best to just, here's our team and let's go have fun, and we can maybe in the offseason kind of rehash the trade, similar to how the Rudy trade kind of gets rehashed. And I think them making the conference finals, at least for now, put that to bed. We'll move on to our next segment here, Pray of the Week, where we look at, during the season, we'll relive our favorite play or the person that made the other team vulnerable as their prey, P-R-E-Y. Mine isn't necessarily play, but a clip from Julius Randle here talking about his former coach and now new coach, Chris Finch, from their introductory press conference.
You mentioned playing for Coach Finch before. Just how excited are you, or what are your feelings on coming back and playing with Finch?
I'm extremely excited. When I left Finch in New Orleans, I wanted him in New York with me. I think he's such a great coach. I've always thought he was a genius, and he's a great communicator, knows how to get the best out of his players. So I remember playing for him there, and I always felt like super prepared for the games, knowing what was going to happen, where I was going to get my shots from, what he needed from me. I just felt like he just opened up my game, and I became a really versatile player. Always said, like, playing there, and even still to this point, that was the easiest game I ever felt playing with the Finch.
Yeah, so I think it's important to point out that Julius Randle's year in New Orleans was kind of his breakout season. He had kind of been viewed as a little bit of a bust, not quite living up to his high lottery potential. And in New Orleans, that kind of changed before he went to the Knicks. And it seems like Finch was a big part of that. He kind of talked about wanting Finch to come with him to New York. And I think Finch and the Randle relationship is going to breed good stuff, because I think it's unusual for a player to really praise his coach like this, and to really come out in full support. He could have just said any old thing, but he really said how excited he is to play with Finch again.
You can call that the play of the week right there by Julius Randle. He's trying to play his way into more minutes, I think is what he's trying to do. He is a guy that I think, yes, he has history with Chris Finch. However, at the same time, he knows that there's a 6th man of the year that would probably love to start. And it's not that it's in a bad way trying to keep Naz Reid from starting, but that he wants to pony up and rub elbows with this coach. And that's great. He wants to get out there. He wants to get involved. He wants to speak highly of it. And I'm really excited to see that personality change and that narrative change about Julius Randle. Is like, oh, well, he's a guy that he doesn't get along with his teammates, or he has a bad attitude. I would love to see that change. All right, well, let's see the good Julius Randle. So I love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, maybe some of it is posturing, but I do think it's a legit thing that this guy earned me a lot of money, earned me a lot of minutes prior to this, and I'm sure he feels like he's only going to continue to get better with Finch again. And it seems like Finch, in a KFan interview, Connelly talked about discussing trades with Finch and getting him. And he said, I just hand him a list of players and I tell him to cross out the guys you don't like and put little hearts next to the people that you do like. And it sounds like DiVincenzo and Julius Randle were hearts guys. And to be curious to see, obviously they'll never say who the crossouts were.
I love that. He's a heart guy. That's really sweet. I didn't hear that one before, but that was good. Speaking of hearts, there's a guy that stole our hearts during media day, and that was one Joe Ingles. He is my candidate for Prey, P-R-E-Y, Prey of the Week, Joe Ingles. When he was out there, he looked really slow. Like, we saw slow-mo slow, but we saw a slow-mo out there. He was, good for him getting out there, moving up and down. He had 3 assists. He had 0 turnovers, a couple good plays. He had a good deflection. So you can see he's seen the game and he's understanding what he's supposed to do. Now, can you trust his body to get up and down the court and to be at the place he needs to be? I'm a little bit dubious to that. Now, he did just have a whole summer off. Yes, he was on an Olympic team, but he didn't play, I don't think, a single minute for the Australian Olympic team. And so, sure, maybe he has to get into game shape. I get it. As someone that's also getting into his late 30s here, it takes me a couple hours to get into a single game shape just to play pickup on Thursday nights, right? But he was out there mostly just giving out hard fouls on Friday. He decked Jackson Hayes, just sent him to the floor, which is kind of funny because I kind of hate Jackson Hayes anyways. He undercut Rui Hachimura on a jumper, which I'm sure was on accident. But, is that going to be what Joe Ingles is, the enforcer out there? He's been known to get out there and to talk trash with the best of them. He had a great back and forth with Paul George back in the day. The funniest part, I think, the opposite of play of the week was him getting bonked by Rob Dillingham. I think there was a out of bounds call. There's a timeout that was being called, and Rob Dillingham was going to save the ball, and everyone had kind of started turning, going to their benches, and Rob just kind of lightly threw the ball back in the court, and it just hit Joe Ingles in the head, and it was pretty funny. And so it's hard not to give Joe Ingles play of the week for me.
Yeah, I like that, and I'm now realizing that when we were talking about Minot in the rotation, I didn't even list Ingles as someone who is also ahead of him on the depth chart. I think Ingles is going to be similar to Kyle Anderson, someone that maybe where we love the personality that is Ingles, that maybe on the court Finch plays him more than necessarily we would, similar to Kyle Anderson. You mentioned him being slow, and I think it's like he's always been slow, and I guess I don't remember watching him enough in Utah or last year in Orlando to really break down how much slower he is now. It was good to see him kind of facilitate and pick up that kind of Kyle Anderson playmaking role, playmaking forward. So if he can defend well enough, or at least just not be a complete sieve on defense, I think they'll find a role for him. And just Finch just talked about just wanting to shoot more threes. Last year they were first in percentage, and Finch kind of said, "Well, that's kind of it's pretty much a bad thing because that just means we didn't shoot enough." A good offense doesn't finish first in percentage because they get up enough shots to that the rate goes down there. So last year they were 23rd in attempts, and I would be pretty darn surprised if they weren't above average this year, if not more. So I think Ingles will play a part of that. Do you think that how far can they jack up this 3-point attempt rate?
I might be a little bit biased because I've been watching a lot of Minnesota Lynx basketball, and they be shooting a lot of threes out there at a great percentage. So I could totally see the Timberwolves doing that. I could believe it. My eyes are ready for that. I'm ready for Anthony Edwards and Donte DiVincenzo and even Julius Randle getting back to his good 3-point shooting days. Now, I don't know if Rudy Gobert is going to cash in his first 3 of the year. If he does, then we could say that the Timberwolves 3-point attempts have officially gone up. But yes, as you shake your head, yeah, we probably don't want to see that. So yeah, I do think that Joe Ingles will still get minutes out there. Yeah, he's most likely ahead of Josh Minot. Again, we don't know what happens in practice. There's a lot of preseason games left to see. That probably wasn't Joe Ingles' fastball that he had out there in Palm Springs. That said, it's quite interesting seeing, you mentioned Josh Minot earlier, where Joe Ingles, he had a play where he did like the super, super slow Euro step and then found a wide open Rob Dillingham because everyone had slowed down. He cashed in a 3. But now on the other end of the court, my kind of play of the week is when Josh Minot just went baseline, threw down a nasty reverse dunk on somebody. And it really harkened me back to the days of when we had Kevin Harlan out there saying, "Buckle up for Kobe Bryant, just sucked the gravity out of Target Center." If it was me, I would have loved to see whoever was on the call for that game say, "Buckle up, we just saw Josh Minot suck the gravity out of Acrisure Arena." That would have been one for the books.
Out of Palm Springs. Looks
Yes,
like
sir.
a fun little trip for them. Yeah, I think Ingles will play a role. And it'll be fun watching them kind of jack up threes. One thing that's interesting is Julius Randle shot more attempts from 3 than Karl-Anthony Towns did on a per game basis. I don't think he'll shoot as many here. But I don't worry about Randle like making threes or being some sort of person that the defense doesn't have to respect out there. They certainly won't look to take it away as much as other parts of his game. Where with Cat, it was the opposite, where they probably sold out more to protect the 3, and if he drove by you try to take a charge on him or whatever. But they're going to shoot a ton of threes. and the question will be, well, last year they were first in percentage and 23rd in attempts. They're going to obviously not be first in attempts, but you're going to want to get still above average percentage and above average rate, so you can really bump that scoring total from a team that was 17th in offensive efficiency last year. We'll move on to playtime, where we look at kind of around the league, take off our Wolves hat and look at other teams around the league. So what we'll look at is the New York Knicks, who acquired Karl-Anthony Towns, Timberwolves legend, and now they have played their first game as well. And Leo, what did you think of Karl's first game in a Knick uniform?
It was hard, I'm not going to lie. Yeah. The first thing I saw on my timeline was Cat running across half court trail in. I believe it was Jalen Brunson that just dumped a pass right back, shoveled a pass right back to him. And he was maybe a good 3-4 feet away from the half court line, where he just launched a three and just cashed it like it was nothing. And then shortly afterwards he drove in and he scored in the paint. And I'm really going to miss seeing that. Those automatic buckets, those are the ones where it's a reminder of the singular, unique offensive talent that he is out there. And so I'm happy for him that hopefully he's at a place that, we'll appreciate him. He'll get a little bit better spin by the media, being for a bigger market team. Hopefully they can change the narrative about him being soft or him not having what it takes. So, I'm happy for him. So that's how I felt about seeing him out there. How did you feel?
Yeah, it was, my first word is weird. It's just weird. I remember I pulled up their highlights and started watching it, and in the back of my head, I'm thinking, oh, it looks good. This is good for the Timberwolves. And I'm like, he's not on the Timberwolves. It's just a weird feeling to see his smile out there and him shooting and him being in a different uniform, because for 9 years he was on our team. I just look at, the main thing was that it does seem like he's going to shoot more threes immediately for the Knicks. And it's a little frustrating. Obviously, we'd love for him to have done that here. Most Wolves fans have been clamoring for him to just increase that rate. And it does seem like that's something he's going to do early, but also it's a preseason game, so you take it with a grain of salt. And then the other thing I think of is his relationship to Tibbs. It did not go well the first time, to say the least. One thing I think about is both sides are going to kind of have to meet in the middle, I think. I don't think they're going to have any real issues. They're adults and professionals. They'll get along just fine. But Cat is someone that requires a little bit of validation from his coach, a great relationship from his coach. And Tibbs is someone that doesn't necessarily do that as well as some other coaches. So while I do kind of think they weren't a great fit, however many years ago that was, 5 years ago, back when Tibbs was the coach of the Wolves, but I do think that both are different. I think I've seen writing that Tibbs is not nearly as high strung as he used to be, and Karl is certainly, hopefully, a trip to the Western Conference Finals has given him some of that validation where he doesn't require it as much from others around him.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Tibbs and Cat. Tibbs was probably the first player to earn a technical for cursing at his own player in the game. So, like you said, time changes people. He's a little bit longer in the tooth. And like you said, he probably has changed quite a bit. It was interesting hearing, there was a podcast, I think it was a Bill Simmons podcast, who I do not co-sign, but Austin Rivers was on there, was talking about the trade and breaking it down. And he started talking about the Cat Tibbs relationship. And he was saying that as Austin Rivers had a quick drink of tea with the New York Knicks back 2020, 2021, Austin Rivers did. And Austin Rivers has played for Tibbs. He's played for Finch, obviously, as we know. So he's seen both sides. And he said that Finch and Tibbs can't be more different in personalities. And it's interesting to see because, yes, sure, it might not be a toxic relationship like it was before, but it's going to be different. And so I'm curious to see how that's going to work out. How do you think the Knicks are going to stack up this year?
Yeah, my main concern would be is if Tibbs is going to stick with playing Cat and drop, because that has just been shown. Drop defense from Cat. For those that don't know, Cat is good at when he's guarding the ball screener, coming up and playing up on what the Wolves would call high wall and making the ball handler get rid of it, and then behind the play, the defense rotates. Where what Rudy plays, and obviously he's probably the best in the world at it, and Cat played for the majority of his career even before Tibbs got to the Minnesota, was drop, where the center drops into the paint, looks to simultaneously prevent the ball handler from getting the rim while also recovering to the rolling big so that they don't have just a wide open dunk. And Cat has just never been shown to be able to do that at a high level. And now that he's moved back to center, when Mitchell Robinson gets healthy, we'll see if they play two bigs like they did here in Minnesota. If they try to play him and drop, I would be worried about the Knicks defense, which was, I believe they finished second in defense behind the Wolves last year. They'll need to find a defensive scheme that works for Karl. Obviously, he can play some drop, and he's not just the worst ever at it, but they should try to play high wall, because they have the personnel to do so with their wing defenders.
Yeah, how many games is Mitchell Robinson going to be healthy for this year? That's a big question mark. I know that was a common talking point as well, too, is that look at how great Cat played next to Rudy Gobert. And Mitchell Robinson is a very similar type of defender. And so without Mitchell Robinson out there and Cat having to play the five, that is going to be, are we going to see the Patrick Beverly Wolves, the Jared Vanderbilt Wolves type defense that the Knicks, as you mentioned, have the personnel to play. So it'll be extremely interesting to see how they stack up. I'm a believer in them just because I'm a big believer in Cat, and I'm a big believer in Mikal Bridges, and Jalen Brunson obviously is great. But I like to see that product out there and see how long it takes for them to gel.
Yeah, according to Ian Begley, a return in December or January could be on the table depending on rehab process goes. That's from Mitchell Robinson. So he'll miss a good chunk of the regular season, but certainly by the playoffs, I think they'll have plenty of time to get him and Cat minutes on the court together. And I would assume it would work a similar way that it did in Minnesota. It could be something for them to look at. And we can talk about the Knicks as it pertains to the Eastern Conference as a whole. I really like their team. My biggest worry, and this is kind of overly simplistic, is to win a championship and really probably to make the finals, you need one of the 50 greatest players ever. There's outliers. The 04 Pistons are like that, and honestly, this last Celtics team is kind of like that. Tatum is not one of the 50 greatest players ever. He's maybe top 100. Probably will be if these Celtics keep winning, and he was a great player, but generally you need one of the 50 greatest players ever. That's every team but one or two since 1980. That's been the case for. And as great as their point guard is, Jalen Brunson, I just don't see him in that role. But ultimately, as just a true playoff contender, I think I would have them second behind Boston. What do you think?
I think that's a fair take. I do wonder, for me, the question becomes, do you bet on continuity? So you have the Boston Celtics running it back, pretty much signing everyone. And then you have the Milwaukee Bucks. They made a couple minor pickups here and there, but they're mostly running the same team back from last year. So they're betting on continuity. They want to build on what they have. And so I've always been a bigger believer on continuity. We saw what that did for the Timberwolves just from year 1 to 2 with Rudy Gobert and that iteration of the Wolves. So I do think that's going to be great. Big additions. On the other side of the spectrum, you have big additions. So there's a Knicks that picked up Bridges. They picked up Karl-Anthony Towns. And you also have Philly who picked up Paul George. Right. And so these are huge additions that you're making. It's going to take time. We saw what Phoenix did this last year, adding Bradley Beal. We thought that was going to be a cheat code. They're going to be so good. And sure, health was an issue with them. But if you're talking health being an X factor, I don't know if I'm betting on New York to have what it takes to have a good, clean bill of health come playoff time. Tibbs' ball will always be the same. I was doing the math. I was looking at it earlier. I was going back and tracking at some of these. And so kind of join me in this little riff that I have. So Tibbs has been a head coach for 12 years. And in those 12 years, he's made one conference finals out of those 12 years. He's missed the playoff 2 times. He's made many first rounds, a couple of second round appearances. One of the years he didn't make the playoffs, he was fired by the Timberwolves, as we know. So let me just take you through this very, very quickly. Year 1 as a head coach for the Chicago Bulls, after he had a successful time with the Celtics, he becomes head coach of the Bulls. They go all the way to the conference finals behind Derrick Rose, the youngest MVP ever, and they lose to the Heatles in the conference finals. No shame in that. Great year. Next year, 2012, in round 1 as a 1 seed, they played the Philadelphia 76ers, and in garbage time, Derrick Rose blows out his knee because Tibbs refused to take him out of the game. And that changed the whole trajectory. They ended up losing to the 8 seed Sixers as a 1 seed. The next year, round 2, Bulls again. In the second round against the Nets, there was a game where it went to triple overtime. And he had a ton of players playing over 56 minutes. Kirk Heinrich played 40 minutes in the playoffs, including 59 minutes that game. That very next game, he popped his calf and he was out. Luol Deng, as we all know, plays a ton of minutes. Perfect Tibbs guy. He played 45 minutes in the playoffs. A game after that triple overtime game, he had to get a spinal tap situation and it got botched and nearly ended his career. after playing that many minutes. So they got eliminated second round by the Nets. Next year, round 1, Derrick Rose blows out his knee in the regular season again. He's playing 30 minutes a game after just tearing his ACL. And they lose to the 5th seed Wizards. Next year, round 2, the Bulls lose to LeBron Cavs, no significant injuries. And then he takes a year off, joins the Timberwolves. First year, he missed the playoffs, but Zach LaVine plays a career high over 37 minutes, and he blows out his knee in the regular season. Next year, round 1 with the Jimmy Butler year, Jimmy Butler hurts his knee in the regular season. Timberwolves go 8-9. They fall to the 8th seed, and that's pretty much why they lost in the playoffs, because they had to face the 1st seed Rockets. After that, as I mentioned, Butler mismanagement, he gets fired. And then we come finally to the Knicks. Round 1, Mitchell Robinson. Before round 1, the regular season, Mitchell Robinson breaks his hand, comes back, then he breaks his foot. They lose in the first round, the 4th seed to the Hawks as a 5th seed. Next year, they missed the playoffs. Kemba Walker was only significant injury. He hurts his knee in the regular season. The team decides to part ways mutually. He's out. Next year, 2023, so 2 years ago, they make it all the way to round 2 this time. Unfortunately for them, Emmanuel Quickley suffers an ankle sprain game 3. He's out for the rest of the series, and they ended up losing to the 8th-seeded Heat in round 2. And then finally, last year, as many of us know, Julius Randle dislocates his shoulder and the beginning of 2024. He's out for the rest of the season. OG Anunoby, who was great addition, hurt his elbow and had a really long road to recovery. And he, by many accounts, came back too early on it. He re-aggravated, had to miss a couple games in the playoffs as well, too. Mitchell Robinson, again, hurts his ankles and foot. He notoriously gets pulled down by Joel Embiid, gets hurt. But again, should he have come back that soon? And then lastly, the straw on the camel's back, Jalen Brunson breaks his hand. They ended up losing in game 7 to 6 seed Pacers. So all that to say, and thank you for riding with me, is that Tibbs will always Tibbs. And if you're banking on health, I don't think that a Karl-Anthony Towns, who has missed a significant portion in the last couple seasons, is going to be cleanly healthy. And the way that he's going to play ball, I don't think Tibbs is going to change in year 13. Say, you know what, let's rest for the playoffs. So that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that they made a trade that obviously I think it made them better, but it did take away more of their depth. And so if he's going to continue to refuse to kind of play the young guys that they have or look into that bench, that might cause issues for them. Especially because if you just look at their starting 5, it's fantastic. They got 5 really good players, all 5 of which could make an all-star game or have it previously in their career. They're that level of player. So their starting 5, I'm sure you go look at the end of the year, they'll be one of the better starting 5s in the NBA. But in the regular season, they're just going to they're going to win a lot of games. And so they should be able to be like, hey, back-to-back, Karl, we don't need you to play, or we don't need you to play 35 minutes. They should be able to do that, get their top 4 seed, which seems to be from what I've seen, the barometer the teams try to get. Like, let's get home court in the first round. If we're the 3 seed instead of the 2 seed, we'll figure it out. It'll be fine. They should be able to do that while resting their guys. So hopefully Tibbs doesn't Tibbs, like you said. But I do see them firmly in the mix of that top 4. And they even with their great starting 5 or lack of bench now without DiVincenzo, they're still probably deeper than Philly and Milwaukee, which would be the other 2 teams that would fight them at the top of the standing. So I do see the Knicks as probably the best chance in the playoffs. But you always say if you can stay healthy, and like you laid out there, it's been a tough road for Tibbs's teams.
Yeah, do you believe that that's going to happen? And I do hope for that, especially for Cat. I do hope that he's going to be healthy this year. I just have a hard time believing that rest is going to be part of the lexicon, and what happens after that. They really might be screwed if that happens. If they do have a significant injury. So we'll see. I do agree with you on paper. It's hard to argue. If people are playing 2K out there, the Knicks are going to be a popular team. So we'll see.
Yeah, 2K, you can turn injuries off. So that's perfect there.
You can even trade your coach in 2K if you wanted to. So
that's true. Just can them right away. Go with someone else. But Tibbs has done a great job with the Knicks. In general, I'm not sure, especially last year. I'm not sure how much of the injuries, especially like you talk about broken feet, is that really due to injuries, or is that really due to increased minutes? Some of the other injuries you probably can point to. But ultimately, it is there's some bad luck to it as well, not just Tibbs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Their luck is always a factor in it. That's the one thing you can never account for. That's the X, right? However, I do think that I've heard a lot of Knicks fans or media members say that it's not Tibbs' fault they're getting injured. It's not Tibbs' fault that Jalen Brunson broke his hand. Like that's fair. But the longer you have him out there in a game, which is what Tibbs does, that he wants him out there as much as possible, the more opportunities there are to get unlucky. So, that's my spiel about it. So we'll see. But I am excited to see what happens at the top of the East. The East is easier, so their record should be nice and shiny and ready as a top 4. So you can go ahead and just put that in pencil and put that in pen, actually. So I expect that as well.
Yep. The East at the top is pretty good. 6, 7, 8 teams are pretty good, but the bottom is where all these Eastern teams should be able to find some wins. But yeah, that's where we're gonna head to our last topic here. 2 words, where we give our 2 words for the week that was. So my 2 words are new era. We talk about kind of closing the book on the Cat trade, at least the discourse of it all, and really look forward to this team turn the page on like the Cat era of the Wolves, and we really lean into what is now fully the Anthony Edwards era in Minnesota. Obviously, that has been true for a couple years now, but one thing I think about is Ant was always willing to share the spotlight and really like the everything with Cat. And I think the one positive thing is Ant probably just needs to take the reins. It wasn't Cat, it was probably Ant preventing that more than Cat preventing that. So one positive externality of the trade is now Ant has no one but himself to kind of take the reins. Leo, your 2 words.
Well, before I go to my 2 words, I would like to say new era better come with something that's more exciting than sailor jerseys that we have right now. I would love to see a new jersey kit. I think that'd be a great way to celebrate a new era. So I would love to see that. But
just wear all the throwbacks and wear the ones they did
an
last
easy
year, the
solution.
90s throwback. Wear the trees black, white, and blue, and just get rid of the highlighter green.
The answer is clear, right? So no, I'm with you. Yeah, new era. That's great. I love those 2 words. My 2 words is going to be the Randle battle. Randle battle. And the reason I say the Randle battle is that can I allow myself to fall in love with Julius Randle again? Because I will share this with you that on exactly April 5th, 2014, actually, sorry, March 23rd, April 14th. So we're talking over 10 years ago on Facebook, I put, ooh, ... You can't Randle the truth. I had a long-standing bet with one of my best friends that Julius Randle will have a better NBA career than Andrew Wiggins. And this was Peach Jam Andrew Wiggins. This is when the next Michael Jordan Andrew Wiggins. This is Maple Jordan years. Before he was even in college, I was like, oh no, Julius Randle is the truth, man. He's going to be the one. I did that sort of as a troll job, just kind of making fun of, hey, there's me someone better than him in that same draft class. But then a month later, I say on social media, update my wall. I say, Julius Randle, he just won my bracket this year with Kentucky, who I picked to go all the way. And then fast forward about 7 years later, March 15, 2021, I tweet out, I'm pretty sure Julius Randle would easily win a Red Bull King of the Rock NBA one-on-one competition. And so when I say that, can I fall in love with Julius Randle again? Over the years, I've soured on his style of play. I've soured on the ISO back down bully ball kind of, I don't care if you love me or hate me, I'm going to be me. I'm like, okay, that's kind of old for me. But can I fall back in love with them? And I think that I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that I'll be able to fall in love and that the Randle battle within myself will overcome any type of pressures or any type of negativity that I have. And I think I can fall back in love with them.
Yeah, I think it'll be important for Wolves fans, kind of building off what you say, is don't judge Randle based on Cat. Don't try to make Cat fit into that hole. You hear Jeff Teague talk about it in his podcast that he knew right from day one that Wolves fans didn't like him because he was the immediate Ricky Rubio replacement. I hope that we don't get into that kind of every Randle bad game we relitigate the trade. I'm sure that'll happen because that's the internet. But I think trying to fall in love with him or at least embrace him here in Minnesota. He's talked about him and his wife have enjoyed the city here. He said he's from Texas, and so I think part of him was ready to get out of New York City, the hustle and bustle, if you will, and he said he likes the space. It's more his speed. That's what he's talked about. So, and the food out here, I think Minneapolis has an underrated food scene, obviously not comparing it to New York, but There's some good foods with all different cultures out here that maybe you wouldn't expect from bitter cold Minnesota.
I already love his, and I've seen this leading up, but his son, I think Kaiden is his son's name. He's been shown a lot on cameras during games. There was a couple infamous clips that there's one of Julius Randle, the 3-point contest where he infamously shot terribly, and they cut to his son in the crowd, and the son is like on the verge of tears, like upset at his dad's performance. Like, I love that kid. And also there's another clip of one time, I think it was younger, when the Knicks were playing the Nets. I think they had lost. This is a KD, Kyrie, James Harden Nets, and the Knicks had lost, and then Julius Randle's wife is walking with with their kid in tunnels, and the kid's like bawling. He's like crying, and the mom's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And he points at the wall in the tunnel, and they're in Brooklyn, and it has the Nets players, and he says, "I hate those. I hate those." And he's pointing at them. It's so sweet. And I am not a kids person. I'm not like I love kids. They're the best thing ever. But Julius Randle's kid is adorable. So he for sure is already earning points with me. So I love it.
Yeah, well, the shot that ended last season, and I'm sure the Starting Five documentary that airs Wednesday will have this somewhere in it. But the shot, the photo from last year, that was Tatum holding up his son with the confetti. So we only hope and pray that we get that same moment with Julius Randle and his son here in June.
Yo, Kaiden will back down Deuce in the paint and score on him every time. I'm taking his son every time.
Awesome. Well, that's where we're going to wrap up for the night. We got 2 preseason games this weekend. I'll be at the one down in Des Moines, beautiful Des Moines, Iowa. And then they play at the Garden against Karl-Anthony Towns and the Knicks on Sunday. So we'll be back next week to break down both of those. And Karl-Anthony Towns playing in a Timberwolves game, just on the other side this time.
It's going to be emotional.
Absolutely. Well, for Leo, I'm Ryan. Have a good night, guys.
See you later, guys. Drive safe.